What up, though? You still letting people fondle your emotions? Did the elders do a good job of passing their delusions to us? Have you been easily deceived? Did you welcome the deception? Have you relinquished control of your thoughts to another? Somebody make an emotional or passionate plea and it's enough to ignite your fire? Have you ever had a thought that was one of a kind? Pennsylvania Capital Star. The Niagara Movement, a precursor to the NAACP, fought for economic and civil rights. Michael Cord. The Niagara Movement was right in rejecting an accommodationist approach and in advocating for economic wealth backed by intellectual, voting, and political power. Michael Cord. (2022). Y'all can check out who in this photo at your leisure. On July 11th, it will be exactly 117 years since the Niagara Movement was founded in 1905. The movement was founded by W.E.B. Du Bois and William Monroe Trotter. Together, they created the organization and, along with Frederick McGee and Charles Edwin Bentley, held its first meeting with 25 other influential pro-black activists in attendance at the Erie Beach Hotel near Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. The Niagara Movement rejected the strategy of the widely known Booker T. Washington, who it accused of being too accommodating to racist white folks, who persuaded Washington not to pursue voting rights. In a historic 1895 speech that came to be known as the Atlanta Compromise, Washington, who was financed by Andrew Carnegie, said blacks shouldn't concern themselves with politics but only with learning a trade and creating businesses. But the Niagara Movement members in general and Trotter in particular blasted Washington as naive and short-sighted. They agreed with his approach to vocational training and job creation. They also advocated for academic education and for voting rights. Trotter's righteous opposition to Washington was so intense that, in 1903, Trotter physically confronted him in Boston and was arrested on minor charges. As documented by W.E.B. Du Bois Library at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, Niagara Movement chapters were established in 21 states a mere 2 months following conclusion of that July 1905 meeting. In August of 1906, when the second meeting was held, this time in the United States at Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, where Brother John Brown had done his thing in 1859, women were invited. In that same year, Du Bois and Trotter had a falling out regarding the decision to allow women in the organization. Although Du Bois was for it, Trotter was initially against it but later acquiesced. The ideals of Du Bois and Trotter's Niagara Movement didn't end with its final meeting. Its ideals of economic activism in combination with political activism and educational activism were resurrected in the founding of the NAACP on February 12, 1909, as highlighted on the NAACP's website at naacp.org, as follows. Before becoming a founding member of NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois was already well known as one of the foremost black intellectuals of his era. History. NAACP. The NAACP, or National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, was established in 1909 and is America's oldest and largest civil rights organization. It was formed in New York City by white and black activists. The NAACP's founding members included white progressives Mary White Ovington, Henry Moskowitz, William English Walling, and Oswald Garrison Villard, along with such African Americans as W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Archibald Grimke, and Mary Church Terrell. Some early members of the organization had been involved in the Niagara movement. In its charter, the NAACP promised to champion equal rights and eliminate racial prejudice, and to advance the interest of colored citizens. Eliminate racial prejudice. How do you eliminate something that's in the mind of someone else? A white lawyer, Moorfield Story, became the NAACP's first president. Du Bois, the only black person on the initial leadership team, served as director of publications and research. Our history, NAACP. Since our founding in 1909, we have been and continue to be on the front lines of the fight for civil rights and social justice. Civil rights and social justice. A group of white liberals that included Mary White Ovington and Oswald Garrison Villard, both the descendants of famous abolitionists William English Walling and Dr. Henry Moskowitz, issued a call for a meeting to discuss racial justice. Some 60 people, 7 of whom were African American, including W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells Barnett, and Mary Church Terrell. The national office was established in New York City in 1910, as well as a board of directors and president. Moorfield Story, a white constitutional lawyer and former president of the American Bar Association. Other early members included Joel and Arthur Spingern, Josephine Ruffin, Mary Talbert, Inez Milholland, Jane Addams, Florence Kelly, Sophonisba Breckinridge, John Haynes Holmes, Mary McLeod Bethune, George Henry White, Charles Edward Russell, John Dewey, William Dean Howells, Lillian Wald, Charles Darrow, Lincoln Steffens, Ray Stannard Baker, Fanny Garrison Villard, and Walter Sachs. Despite a foundational commitment to multiracial membership, Du Bois was the only African American among the organization's original executives. First Lady and NAACP National Board Member Eleanor Roosevelt. This is a photo of the founders, some of the founders. William English Walling, Mary White Ovington, Henry Moskowitz, Ida B. Wells, Orwald Villard, W.E.B. Du Bois. The NAACP. This is from The Hill. Arizona Republicans' colored people remark draws floor rebuke by Michael Schnell and Mike Lillis, 7/13/2023. A first-term Republican lawmaker referred to African Americans as colored people on the House floor Thursday, prompting outrage from Democrats and a quick rebuke from the chamber's presiding officer. Rep. Ellie Crane, Republican of Arizona, was reprimanded after he took to the floor to promote an amendment to National Defense Authorization Act that he says will rein in Defense Department wokeness. During debate over the amendment, Rep. Joyce Beatty, Democrat, Ohio, the former head of the Congressional Black Caucus, railed against the measure, arguing that Republicans were setting us back. You are setting us back. On this floor, on both sides of the aisle, we have people of color. We have people who have served. Crane, a former Navy SEAL, shot back after Beatty concluded her remarks, arguing that his amendment had nothing to do with whether or not colored people or black people or anybody can serve. Once Crane wrapped up his comments, Beatty asked that his words, colored people, be stricken from the official record, calling it offensive and very inappropriate. I am asking for unanimous consent to take down the words of referring to me or any of my colleagues as colored people, she said. This is what Beatty said. I am asking for unanimous consent to take down the words of referring to me or any of my colleagues as colored people, she said. So previously, one of Beatty's remarks, she says, you are setting us back on this floor on both sides of the aisle. We have people of color. And then Crane said, that the amendment has nothing to do with whether or not colored people. So, people of color is acceptable, but colored people is not. His colored people remark that got most of the attention, drawing sharp criticism from Democratic lawmakers, including the Congressional Black Caucus, which called the comment unconscionable. This is a shameful moment on the House floor, the group wrote on Twitter. Rep. Adam Schiff, Democrat, California, said it was troubling to watch this roll off the tongue of a congressman so easily. This kind of racist language has no place in the U.S. House of Representatives or anywhere else, he added on Twitter. Rep. Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas, a member of the caucus, was more terse. Rep. Ellie Crane just referred to black service members as colored people. You can't make this up. This is who these people are and who they've always been, she said in a tweet. This is from Cronkite News. Crane's use of colored people in House debate brings swift condemnation. Washington. Reactions to Arizona Rep. Eli Crane Eli Crane's use of the term colored people during a House floor debate Thursday ranged from utter shock to suggestions that it was a dog whistle to white nationalists. But Rep. Joyce Beatty, Democrat Ohio, who was on the other side of the floor debate Thursday, called Crane's speech racist and repugnant. I am still in utter shock and disbelief that a Republican uttered the words colored people in reference to African American service members. So in other words, she said, I am still in utter shock and disbelief that a Republican uttered the words misnomer in reference to misnomer service members. Charles Faneuil, the president of the Arizona State Conference of the NAACP, said, shameful on him, shame on him, particularly in this day and time when race relations are so fragile right now and there's so much division and hatred. You know, when you get young people like him, especially an elected official, this same type of ideology and mindset is certainly frightening, Faneuil said. It's not welcoming, you know. It's just like you're still stuck in yesteryear, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said. They said this day and time when race relations are so fragile. Why are they so fragile? Well, because you have Charles Faneuil, the president of the Arizona State Conference of the NAACP, saying shame on him, particularly in this day and time when race relations are so fragile right now. This is the NAACP saying that shame on him. This is the president of the Arizona State Conference of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It's in their title. It's in their name. Colored people. It's right here. It's right here. National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. You so special, and so many fighting for the honor to think for you. Do the right thing.